And then the big one is, frankly, player types are changing. In my 11 years doing this work, the players who were playing the game in 2013 versus the players who are playing in the NHL now look a lot different. Certainly length is as valuable as ever in defensemen. We've seen it with the St. Louis Blues, the Tampa Bay Lightning, but there are players of all shapes and sizes that make it work, and when we don't recognize that or our scouting evaluations exclude those guys, that's where you lose the war. So a few case studies that I wanted to get into. Evan Bouchard and the look of a player. This is a classic one for me. When I was scouting Evan Bouchard, when I spoke to OHL general managers and OHL coaches about him, when I spoke to NHL scouts about him, the big thing you always heard about Evan Bouchard was that he was lethargic, that he was lackadaisical, that he didn't have the head for the game, that his feet were slow, and that he couldn't be as productive. He wasn't going to be as productive as he was at the junior level at the next level. I remember watching this CHL Top Prospects game. End of the game, only player in my notebook I hadn't written anything down on was Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard had 4 assists in that CHL Top Prospects game. Evan Bouchard was the player of the game in that CHL Top Prospects game. And I missed it because he didn't look like the top player that he's become today. Today, obviously, playing 25 minutes a night for the Stanley Cup finalists. Had you talked to Lindsey Hofford or Mark Hunter about him at that time, they would have told you all of the things he does well and all of the things that were going to work for him at the next level, which were his ability to get shots through. I don't think there's a player in the NHL from the point who hits the net more regularly with their shots than Evan Bouchard. He'll never sail it over the crossbar. And it's not walking the line in the way that a Quinn Hughes does or a Cale Makar does. It's recognizing triangles, it's pucks under sticks, it's timing. And those little things are a lot harder to evaluate and a lot harder to identify if you're so caught up in what Evan Bouchard looked like, which frankly wasn't a high-end player from the look of him. Another one, Brandt Clarke and the look of a skater. All you heard, talk to NHL scouts about Brandt Clarke in his draft year, all you heard about Brandt Clarke was he rode his inside edges, his knees knocked, he wasn't an athlete. Tony Greco, his strength and conditioning coach in Eastern Ottawa, once told me on a phone call that Brandt Clarke was a bag of milk, that when they played basketball in the yard, he couldn't jump 5 inches off the ground, that it didn't look like how people wanted it to look. Last year in the OHL, and I know Laz is here and Laz could attest to this, last year he started the year in the AHL, came back after the World Juniors and played for the Barrie Colts. What made Brandt Clarke so good at that level was the creativity, the inventiveness. Brandt Clarke, and I've talked to him about this, Brandt Clarke will tell you that riding his inside edges allows him to break left and right on guys and lose guys and really lean on those edges, that it may look weird or that he may look awkward out there, but that there are tools in his game that are going to translate in a bit of a different way. And the LA Kings, when they drafted him, recognized that last year with the Barrie Colts in that second half, plus 40 in 31 games at that level. He was the most impactful player in the league. He was my most outstanding player vote. He broke the mold and did it a little bit differently, but when he went back to the Barrie Colts that year, he changed the look of that team. This year, one of the best under-21 seasons in the history of the AHL by a defenseman, and he still looks like that awkward kid. He's put on weight since the draft. He's gotten stronger. If I were to call Tony Greco today and talk to him about him, he'd tell you about the progress, but he didn't look like it, and teams ruled him out, and teams didn't like him because of it. Logan Stankoven and the expectations of size. Logan Stankoven, second round pick. All you heard about him, too small. His game's not going to work in the same way. You watch this tape, Logan Stankoven is a hound. Logan Stankoven was one of the heaviest players in the WHL in his time in the WHL. I'm a firm believer that Logan Stankoven is going to play a heavy game in the NHL. Stepped right into the league this year, made an impact. The teams that sat in their scouting meetings and cut corners and said, this kid's too small, didn't do sort of justice, if you will, to the player. This is Jeremy Hansel, 6'3" NHL prospect. The kid you saw in the previous clip, 6'2" NHL prospect. Samuel Kanazko. Graham Sword is in one of these clips, 6'3", 220-pound kid. He's up and under sticks. He's excellent along the wall. And the Dallas Stars, I promise you, when they built their scouting reports on him, It was about detail. It was about specifics. They got away from the cliches and the ambiguities of it all, and they understood what made him tick, and they drafted him because of it.